Hey guys, I am back and I wanted to talk to you today about my nursing career. So I wanted to jump into this because I do want you to get to know me a little bit more, and I also want to talk to you about how I got where I am. Very quickly, I just wanted to let you know that nursing was my second degree, so it's not something that I always did, and I went back to school for it. The reason that I decided to go back to school for nursing was because I was in the military, and when I was in the military, I got sick, and I felt like the doctor there in the Army, he tried to take advantage of my lack of knowledge. Luckily, I had my mom, who is a nurse as well. She was an LPN, and because of her, I think is why I didn't get very, very sick. But it was only because of her. He definitely played on my lack of medical information. So I wanted to be a resource for patients. I wanted to go back to school, learn all the medical things, and then I wanted to share that information with the world because really, I was just a lay person. I didn't know anything, and anything could have been the outcome had I not had my mom. And so I wanted to be the resource and the guide for others, and so that is why I went into nursing. However, I went into nursing, went to nursing school, and realized I do not like med-surg nursing. So I was like, what am I going to do? This is my second degree. I can't waste yet another degree. And then I found obstetrics. It was like my favorite topic in school. I went and worked in the NICU as an extern, and it was amazing. I was like, I can do this. I can do this. So that is how I got into nursing. If you want more information about that, I can definitely do a deeper dive. The field of nursing itself was a culture shock for me. Now, not that I had a ton of work experience before I went into nursing, but when I compare my work experience in nursing as a new nurse to that of my friends, it was vast. So I live in a major metropolitan area, and a lot of the work here is focused around the government. And so a lot of my friends were government contractors. And so they were making way more money than I could ever think of as a new grad. That coupled with them just taking off when they felt like it, they just couldn't grasp the concept that I couldn't just take off work when I wanted to, nor could they grasp the concept that I had to schedule myself 6-8 weeks ahead of time if I wanted to take time off. They just couldn't grasp it. And in turn, that made me feel like, what am I doing here? I'm a full adult. We're the same age, me and my friends. Why do I have to ask permission but I'm honestly, it's just the nature of healthcare. It's a 24/7 job. It's a 24/7 operation. So you do have to plan out. That's just the nature of the job. But something about it lends to feeling a bit juvenile. I can't quite explain it except that it's like asking your parents for permission, right? You have to ask permission to be off of work. You have to ask permission to, take a doctor's appointment or, all of these things that my friends could just take off for. They planned their trips around my schedule, and I had to wait to get approval, and I had to put it in months ahead of time. So I do feel like I miss out on a lot of family moments, a lot of friend lifetime milestones and things like that because of nursing. Not that I didn't appreciate my job. It's just that I didn't appreciate how it made me feel, to be honest. And not to be controversial, but I think the way that nursing is run, almost childlike, has a lot to do with it being a female majority job and workspace. I don't know. I think there's a connection to it all, but yeah. I think you end up feeling like a child. You have to ask permission to go to the bathroom. You have to have coverage for this, coverage for that. And again, it's the nature of the job, but I don't know. It definitely makes you feel like a trapped child, but you're an adult, so you actually feel. In addition to that, I kind of did not value my job as a nurse. I worked largely in the NICU initially, which I loved. I thoroughly enjoyed. My babies, though, were sick to a limit. We got really young babies, 23-week pregnancy, 24-week babies and older, and I enjoyed it, but I still didn't find my value in the care that I gave, unfortunately, at that time. And same with, postpartum. I was a postpartum nurse, and I remember distinctly till this day, I don't remember what I had on 2 days ago, but I remember this comment this patient's husband made. He was like, welcome to Hotel X, the company that I worked for. And I'm like, oh, I'm a servant. That's how he sees me, as someone who is serving him. And so that was a bit disparaging for me. And I know he didn't mean anything by it, but I still remember it. And feeling how I already felt, it just did not make me feel any better about being a nurse, unfortunately. So the moment I started appreciating being a nurse, there were a couple of moments. And one of the biggest moments, I believe, came to me when I had a patient one night. I was a manager at this time, and I had a patient, and I took care of her that night. It was a very busy labor and delivery unit at, a place that I no longer work, but it was very busy. And then I remember the next night I came in as a manager on duty, and I remember the patient did not do well. She ended up in an emergency C-section, and then she later went to cardiac arrest in the OR, and it was so devastating. But in that moment, I was like, this is what I'm here for. I am here to be of service, to manage someone's care, to take care of them, to help them through the tough times and, recover them and heal them. And I remember looking around the operating room as this patient continued to, be in cardiac arrest. It was really a bad situation. And I looked around and I saw all of the nursing staff and all of the medical staff and all the other ancillary staff members working so hard to keep this woman alive. And I'm like, this is the work. I wish her family, not that they would want to see that, but I wish they knew how very hard this team is working to save this patient's life. And, it was such an emotional, sad situation for everyone. But when I tell you, I have never seen people work harder than I did that night, or in any emergency situation when people are coming together to save a life. That was the moment where I was like, this is what I was called to do. This is what I'm here for. I'm a nurse. It's a pretty big deal. And I feel like the world didn't start seeing value in nursing until the pandemic. And that's when people started saying, we're healthcare heroes, blah, 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 blah. And I don't think people still have that same optic of nurses, unfortunately. But I do think people began to appreciate how hard nurses work. And that felt really good, even if it was only like a temporary amount of time. So at one point, I also worked at a military hospital, and we got a lot of new nurses, new Navy nurses. And so I felt like the mama bear over them, and I would make sure that, I was watching out for them as nurses and as people, but I was also watching out for their patients, because ultimately as a charge nurse, their patients were my patients as well. And so I wanted to make sure that the patient's care was being managed efficiently. And I also wanted to make sure that the nurse was getting the support that came with being a seasoned nurse per se, but it all changed for me. I love what I do. And while I'm not directly at the bedside anymore, I do really enjoy my job and the difference that I make from the position I'm in now. And I also am a clinical nurse instructor. So I still get to teach and influence nurses to be great nurses, I hope, and, tell them how to interact with people and show them and teach them and give them a great experience as students, that hopefully they'll take that information and that training on to the bedside. And I get to teach expectant families like you. So I love what I do. At the heart of everything I do is education for the nurse, the new and upcoming nurses, and also for the parents. And so I feel like I get to fulfill what it was that I was called to do, or what it is that I am called to do in the healthcare space. So if you have any questions, like, comment, share, and follow, subscribe, all of the things. And I will see you tomorrow.